Check. Check. Yep. Check. 1, 2, check. I have antennas up there, so. Check. 1, 2. Do what? I'm gonna go test it right now. Check.
OutKick The Tailgate, presented by Farmfolio. We have made it into Knoxville, Tennessee. It's going to be an exciting show for us all today. Jill Savage, not Chad Withrow, Bobby Carpenter here instead, and Jonathan Hutton. Bobby, first of all, welcome to the show. Thanks for making the trip down to Knoxville with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Very excited to be here. A little chilly for the South. Thought it might be a little warmer than this, but we got the little wind coming off the water. Get the stadium in the background. Get the smell of food. It is a game day. It's week 11. We were cruising through this college football season. Start to see these conference championships line up a little bit now, so this is my favorite part of the year.
This is Jill's first time to Knoxville. Is this your first time?
I've been to Knoxville before, but it's been about 15 years. First time on a game day, so very excited to be here.
Get ready. Get ready. Number one in the country here today.
I mean, we couldn't ask for a better setup than we have right here. I mean, a beautiful setting. It's going to be a great game. And Georgia, we've been talking about Georgia all season long. They've been number one throughout. We look at them and just say they haven't really faced a difficult test quite yet. Every time Georgia goes out and plays, the game is over in hand so early. So we always wonder, maybe that Florida week, maybe this is the weekend that they're going to be tested. Maybe this Tennessee game, Bobby, is when they're going to be tested. Do you think?
Well, I've been saying this out for all season long. I want to see what Georgia looks like if they have to pass the football, not when they want to throw it, because they can throw it when you're running it and you're setting up and your play action looks real nice. But if you get in a game where someone stops your run or on the other side of it, they're able to score a lot of points. No one's been able to slow down this Georgia run. And then, with that as well, no one's been able to move the football on them consistently, so they've never had to keep pace. Now, it's a great problem to have, Hutton, but still, if they get in a game where it's a little bit of a shootout, I want to see what that looks like.
I want Stetson Bennett to have to face a little pressure in the fourth quarter because he doesn't have to. He has thrown 50 passes when they have trailed or when they've led by less than 14 all season long. He's thrown 50 passes on the mark. That's it. I mean, he's got it easy. Put some pressure on the quarterback and the offense instead of letting the defense set everything up for them, because the defense allows the offense to play off of what's going on the other side of the football. Bobby loves this, by the way. He loves defensive effort. I love Georgia's defense. I just want to see them tested.
I'm a big fan of this because this is what college football looked like 15 years ago. All of a sudden, about 5, 6, 7 years ago, Nick Saban took a big swig of the Kool-Aid, choked it down, put on some white Nikes. He joined the offensive party. At that point, that was when I was ready to put a fork in defense in college football. The guy who's the best coach, who's a defensive guy, who's had dominating defense, did it with running the football and just game managers at quarterback. It seemed like those days were long gone. And then all of a sudden, you have a school in Georgia, great defense, runs the football, a quarterback that was a fourth-string walk-on that no one's going to write home about, and they're number one in the country. And I think there's a fairly sizable gap between them and everybody else.
I agree with you. So watching Georgia play this year, we know their defense is elite. How good are they? When you watch their defense play, are you thinking like, oh, this is the best defense I've seen in years? Or is this like best defense this year?
Oh, no, this is one of the best you've seen in years. Now, I think part of it that helps them is that offensive football has regressed a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have, and if you think about this, the Clemsons, the Bamas, the Ohio States, the OUs, like all of these schools historically have just kind of rolled another quarterback in, and they've been great. And that hasn't been the case this year. There's a little bit of flux as far as how good some of those guys are. So I think this defense, well, they haven't maybe faced those elite level quarterbacks, and Matt Corral's a good one. He's a pretty talented guy that is sitting out there at Ole Miss. But I just don't know if there's anyone that's truly elite this year. But as far as that defense goes, I played against that early 2000s Miami team. Their defense is a lot of NFL guys, really good.
One of the best we've ever seen.
I don't know if they're quite to that level, but I would say because they've got a couple games left, and we got to see them against some elite teams still. But I would say you could start putting them in the conversation, and what sets them apart is their front is so darn good that I think their secondary is pretty good, but you really don't have to know because they get so much pressure and they can stop the run, so you can sit back and play pass all day.
When you look at the aspirations that Georgia has, and Hutton mentioned it, that Stetson Bennett has not been really tested in pressure situations. When you look at where they want to go as a team, is Stetson Bennett going to be capable enough to take them through the SEC championship game, through the college football playoff?
And so this is the great argument where you start looking at and trying to figure out, is it a matter of how well you're playing now, or is it ultimately that maybe JT Daniels could have a higher ceiling, but do you risk disrupting the apple cart? I mean, they're rolling along. It
doesn't matter who they play.
You could say that, but all of a sudden you put a guy in who the team has kind of rallied around. You pull him out. You put in JT Daniels. He's a transfer. I think obviously the team respects him. But let's say he comes in, in a game and they throw him in the SEC championship game. Maybe they decide to go with him at that point or rotate him in, or who knows what happens. And he throws an interception. How does that impact the continuity of that offense?
But they know they're going to have short fields. They're going to take advantage. They're going to get a defensive score. Special teams are solid. They don't have to rely on the quarterback's play. And they have told us all year, based on what they've done and who they've played throughout, that Stetson Bennett's their guy.
We have some Georgia fans around here. Stetson Bennett, thumbs up?
Yeah.
Everybody
why not?
likes him, yeah. I mean, you keep winning.
Anybody in the country would give a thumbs up with this defense. Think about that.
And that's the thing. This is something that we haven't seen in so long, where you have a quarterback that isn't an NFL caliber prospect. I mean, I'm not even sure how many other teams he would really start on, but he was able to slide into this opportunity. And we use the term game manager as if that's like the devil. It's the worst thing in the world. Hey, hand the ball off, complete some third downs, don't throw interceptions, stay ahead of the chains, and you know what? You might just navigate this thing to a national championship.
The team that they're facing today in Tennessee, that was a fun one to watch against Kentucky last week, because you go the exact opposite style of Georgia, and you are scoring in 11 seconds, right? Like 1 play, 2 play, 3 play scoring drives for the Tennessee Volunteers. How do you see that going up against this particular defense?
And so there's two schools of thought on this. When you run a hurry up against a team that has a great defense and runs the football, it can be the best thing that happens to you. It can be the worst thing that happens to you. If you're able to get a first down in that first set of drives, they call it P&10, your drive starter. If you can go out there and convert and get them running back on their heels, all of a sudden now you've got the momentum with you. And if you're Tennessee, what that does is it'll fatigue the defensive line, fatigue the front, give you more time. And that's when you see them start to make plays because there won't be the pressure on them. They can push the ball down the field and have some success as those drives get stretched and guys get tired. Conversely, if you come out there 3 incompletions and like 17 seconds is burned off the clock, then you're asking your defense to go back out there and stop a team that says, hey, we're going to hold the ball for 10 minutes and we're going to bludgeon you to death with this rock.
So Tennessee played Pittsburgh earlier in the year. I felt like if they had more, they're all about pace and tempo. If they could just slow it down a little, I felt like they would be in that game and win that game at the end because you just possess the football and you keep it out of the hands of the elite quarterback, right, with Pickett. This is different because we saw Tennessee at Alabama. They were toe-to-toe into the fourth quarter, and then they decided to punt instead of go for it on fourth down. Kiffin went to Bama and felt like he had to go for it every fourth down. And the aggressive mentality is what I think they have to bring today at Neyland because you cannot let your foot off the gas. You have to feel as though, Bobby, you have to press the pedal right to the floor every possession. 14 seconds, 35 seconds, whatever it was last week against Kentucky. It's a different animal here where if you can get over 20 points, you'll be the first to do it, first and foremost. You'll be the first to do it. And then you feel like, okay, you can settle in and actually play your style of game. That is Heupel's style. The pace and tempo plays to Tennessee's advantage here because it's so difficult to prepare for. Fourth quarter time, keep it within a possession. We'll see what happens.
And one other thing, this Georgia defense, like they're so good, and this isn't a knock on them. Like they haven't had to play a lot of defense because they force so many 3-and-outs,
right,
and they're so good. And so you start getting them. If they have to play 80, 90 snaps, you then begin to test that depth a little bit, test the conditioning. And not that it's not there, it's just the fact that we haven't seen it yet. And that's the only thing. You know, faith is believing in what you do not see or what you cannot see. I think people have faith in it, but you still want to get a chance to see it.
The good news for Georgia is that first string is going to be a 5-star, and that second string is also still just going to be a 5-star. They're just going to be rolling them through. We're going to be breaking down that game. We're live in Knoxville, but there's another game in the SEC, A&M at Ole Miss. I think this one, I look at this, and A&M has gone through a roller coaster of a season. We thought that, we put them on top. They stumbled after they had to make the transition over to Zach Calzada at quarterback. And then they go out and actually, Hutton and I were there with Chad to see them with the biggest upset so far in college football this season and taking down Alabama. And now it seems like this A&M team is who we thought they were going to be from the start of the season.
It's kind of where we are in society right now. A&M has been great, bad, great. Like, they were supposed to be phenomenal this year. This was the year they beat Alabama. They get all this done. They win the West. Then all of a sudden they implode early in the season like a star just burning in on itself. And then, that Alabama win, all of a sudden, that seemed to change their fortunes, and they're a team that's playing with a lot more confidence. That defense looks really good because Calzada's done a good job for them. And, I think this is a team that's really on the rise, and they're taking on a team at Ole Miss. The Matt Corral, they've asked him to do so much. And, I go back to that Arkansas game where they basically just poured it on his shoulders. Mm-hmm. And he got beat up, and this isn't a knock on Matt Corral at all. I just feel like since that game, he hasn't quite been the same player, probably due to some of those nagging injuries that we don't really talk about or know about, but it's something that impacts your play.
Ole Miss's schedule is brutal.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU, Auburn. Now they have A&M. It's week after week. And I respect Matt Corral and Calzada, for that matter, because of their toughness, week in and week out here. This comes down to the run game, Bobby, for both teams. And Kiffin wants to run it as much as he wants to see Corral throw it around. Texas A&M is also very good at running the football, and that's their identity. I look at which defense do I trust to stop the run? Texas A&M will stop the run. Ole Miss, week in and week out, we don't know what they're going to do. Difficult to predict Ole Miss defensively because they haven't been able to stop anyone. but I like the aggressive mentality offensively to put up some points today.
And a quick thought, Mississippi State and at Auburn, you don't know what you're going to get out of some of these teams either.
No. With Bo Nix, no. It's week in, week out, hot, cold. It's hard to bet on him.
Good when Bo Nix is good. Auburn is good. Their team looks like a team that's top 10. They can compete. And then you watch bad Bo Nix, and you're like, whoa, this is not what we like. This is not a guy who should be starting, at a big-time power program. But when he's rolling, and you almost have to kind of get some in-game action on this thing. Watch a couple of series, see how he's doing. Yeah. Hey, does he look comfortable? Is he throwing balls in the dirt? Is he panicking and running out of the pocket? Or is he someone who looks composed, is accurate, moving the football, and then taking the runs when they're there?
Well, and Bo Nix, when he's good, Tank Bigsby gets going too with their run game, right? And which version of Tank Bigsby do we see? It comes down to which version of Bo Nix do we see. Both teams coming off of tough losses last week, Jill. And Bo Nix normally, when he plays bad, responds and rebounds and plays well. That it's very difficult to predict Auburn because of the up and down play at quarterback. But against Mississippi State, it's Derek Mason's defense against that offense more than it is about Bo Nix today.
Jonathan, we have our roving reporter, Paxton Elrod, back with us this week.
Paxton is back.
This is her alma mater. So, Paxton, tell us about some of these game day traditions here in Knoxville, because it's my first time.
Yeah, first of all, I'm very happy to be here. I've been spending most of my Saturdays of my entire life here in Neyland, right behind me. So to be able to work here and also go to the game afterwards, I can't really complain. But yeah, no, there's some really awesome traditions, especially down here on the river. People pull up their boats. Valnavia is right down the road. And truthfully, if you aren't wearing checkered overalls, then I don't really know what you're doing. I'm basically going to spend the rest of the day saying feels like 98, because maybe we're going to beat Georgia and feels like 98 will finally make more sense. But yeah, it's definitely going to be fun down here. I feel a little dramatic with this coat on, but outside of that, it's a good day. Good day to be a Vol.
Be a Tennessee Volunteer, and we are exciting to have Clay Travis also. Speaking of Tennessee Volunteer fans.
I am a big Tennessee Volunteer fan. This is great. I've been, first of all, it looks like it's going to be pretty good weather. My three boys are down there throwing a football on the sort of walkway here that we're at down on the Tennessee River. And I feel like there's 100% chance that the ball is going into the river. They bounced it super close a couple of times. I keep telling them not to throw near the area, and they just refuse to listen to me at all. It's kind of crazy.
Your first time with all three boys going to a game, right?
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
I've taken them to a lot of Titans games before, but I've never taken them to a game in Neyland. So I'm pretty excited. And this guy, you had some excited. We were just talking about off the air here. You guys were absolutely exhilarating to watch.
Tony Vitello, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, it's baseball. It was a great season for you guys last year.
My pleasure to be on, and it was great for fans. It was stressful for coaches. We had about as much drama as you could ever have in a decade wrapped into one season.
How do you use football to recruit for baseball? And what way and basketball? I know all the sports kind of work together, but 100,000 people are going to be in Neyland today. How does that help baseball?
Well, the number one trending topic is how rowdy our fan base was last year in our stadium.
Oh, yeah, it was
we
amazing.
had opposing coaches complaining about it, which in the SEC,
which you love.
I enjoyed it. But in the SEC, that's on another level because you hear and see things that don't happen across the country, and normally at least. And so, what our guys can do when they're on a visit, like a couple superstars we have visiting now, they'll see the type of fans we have here. It's not a fan base that sits on their hands. Obviously, you have a various age group that's in the stadium, but it seems like a young group. Yeah. Everybody's young at heart and rowdy, and our guys can see that.
Well, the thing about recruiting, football was using baseball to recruit. Let's flip it. During that run, they were scheduling visits and taking tours during the watch parties out here.
Yeah, the deal we had was almost kind of like Yawkey Way at the Red Sox, at Fenway Park at the Red Sox game. You block off a street there and you kind of walk around. Well, we had that going on, and recruits could come and walk down the street or see into the stadium and basically see what we got going on. And, Vol Nation is about as loyal as it gets and about as big as it gets. and everyone will see that today, even though I feel like it's the Cold War again. Seeing red a little bit out here. I'm going to try and behave, but hopefully the Georgia fans have fun before and after the game, but not during the game.
You also had the whole football team basically coming to watch your games inside of the crowd, right? Like, I mean, that was a super cool thing to see how much they were rooting for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is about here. The culture's a little different. Sometimes within athletic departments, the teams don't coexist as much as you would think they do. But here, for whatever reason, there's a good camaraderie among all the sports, and the football guys are great to our guys.
When you have a walk-off, how long does it take for you to be able to sleep later that night? I'm just kind of curious as a coach, because you try to stay fairly calm most of the time, it seems. But when you guys had so many exhilarating wins, I'm curious how long it takes you after the game to come back down from the high, or it could be a low, right? I mean, a tough loss. Like, how do you adjust? How do you get sort of your body back in cycle? What's that feel like post-game?
Yeah, it's tough. My maturity level's very low, so it's a challenge post-game, because that moment where you meet up can affect the next day. You know, you sleep on a win, you wake up to a loss type of thing.
Yeah.
And one of our best wins in this program since we've been here is after we blew a 7-run lead to Florida. So, like you said, it can go a lot of different ways. But that Friday night game is the closest thing you get to a football game.
Yeah.
Because you wait all week to play Georgia or to play South Carolina on a Friday night. You got two aces going at it. And you're not going to get to bed very, very easily after that game, and you got to deal with a little less sleep the next day.
One of the all-time great celebrations, and we should share this on our social handle, the helmet throw. I mean, that is, I mean, it was a walk-off, but the helmet throw spin as he got to home plate. How many times do you watch a play like that?
I have never watched that play.
Really?
We play it on a loop when recruits come through, and it's on yesterday. So I've heard it. I've heard John Wilkerson's call a million times.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm nervous about enjoying things because we want more here.
Yeah.
When the time is right, I guess I'll watch the whole deal. But I did see it live, kind of, because I was going a little crazy myself. But
yes.
Drew Gilbert's an amazing kid. Vol fans love him. And he is the perfect athlete. He's an assassin on the field, and off the field, he could not be a better and nicer kid.
What about guys who may want to play multiple sports? I mean, it's not uncommon for a guy to have baseball ability and also football ability, let's say. How do you go about recruiting a guy who could be a multi-sport athlete these days?
First thing is we get him here this weekend, because the biggest one that football and us are recruiting together is here.
Yeah.
And
can you mention recruits' names, or is that still forbidden?
I cannot. I'm from St. Louis. I'll say that.
Yeah, okay.
I'm from St. Louis.
Yeah.
So I think Josh and his staff just seem to be very easygoing and very easy to get along with. And that's affected the environment in that building over there. Everyone seems to be more positive and energetic. And with them, it's just a line of communication. Like, how is this actually going to work when the guy is here? And for the kids, they all want to do it beforehand, but when they get here, it's mind-blowing how much of a commitment it is. And Flowers was with us for a little bit. And, eventually I think he knows he can play in the NFL and
decides to go one sport over the other.
Yeah, for sure.
So a big recruiting weekend, right?
No doubt.
Period. What do you do? Like, what are the top three things that you are making sure that your recruits are seeing today?
Right. Well, get them around our guys is a big thing. For me, I think our kids, only one team gets to hoist a trophy at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I think regardless of how many games we win, our guys have a great experience here. It's a people or relationship type of program. So to get them around our guys is huge, so they can relay how their experience is going here. Because I don't think we're better or worse than anyone, but I do know our guys enjoy it as much as any program in the country here. And the next is, again, the fan base. Get them to see how loyal people are here. You talk about name, image, and likeness. That's a factor now.
Sure.
But just see how much support and how much they'll be looked after if they wear orange around here. And then the next is see the facilities. I mean, there's a commitment here clearly from Danny White and his administration to boost things. So we've got great facilities now, but there's plans or drawings up everywhere across campus what we're going to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to say 4 years under your belt now as the head guy. What has kept you to be part of this Tennessee program for so long, for so many years now?
I think it's the community. It sounds cliche and corny, but it's different here. It's a welcoming environment. I mentioned the word loyalty before. I'm Italian. That's the biggest word in my dictionary, and that's the vibe you get around here. And if you're bought into the culture that's here. And I'm from St. Louis. I'm a city kid. I mean, I love Pat Summitt. I love Coach Fulmer's teams. Al Wilson was amazing to me when I was watching him on the field. So I knew a little bit about here, but we're imports, and people have treated us like we're naturally from here or one of their own, and we're trying to reciprocate.
How big of a Cardinals fan are you?
So my dad is from Chicago.
Oh, so you're a Cubs guy.
He brainwashed me. So I had to learn. I can't do what you all do on the air. I'm very impressed by how good you guys are as a group, but I had to learn how to fight verbally at a young age being a Cubs fan in St. Louis.
So do you obviously coach now, but when you watch Major League Baseball, do you still watch as a fan or do you watch as a coach now?
It's kind of become like the kids do. Like you ask them what NBA team, they like players. They don't like teams now. It's so different. And
that's how my boys are 100%.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough. I've been around a lot of players that have played in the big leagues. And so Max Scherzer's here this weekend. Staying with us.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's going to the game today. So
Todd Helton is going to be here.
Todd will be recognized on the field. So you cheer for Max, whatever team he's on, or some of our guys that have made it to the big leagues. Garrett Crochet's with the White Sox, so now I'm kind of a White Sox guy.
Yeah. No, that's great. A lot of the guys out here remember Todd Helton because he was, before Peyton took over, after, I believe it was, and I'm a longtime Tennessee fan, but he came in and started, I think, 3 games after the injury that they had to Colquitt, who was expected to be the guy, and Peyton ended up coming in early. But Helton beat Georgia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think Todd Helton came in and beat Georgia, which I'm sure is one reason that he's here for this game.
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend on the baseball field, but not that many people realize he also played football here. And it may be a myth, but kind of the story goes that somewhere deep into his career here, it was pretty clear that baseball was his future.
Yeah.
And there was an injury to Peyton or somebody, and he was told, to start warming up. And he said, no, I'm good. I'm kind of on the football team as just a guy, but I'm a baseball player.
Yeah, no, that's outstanding.
What will the Omaha experience do for your crew and your squad coming back? Even though you didn't accomplish what you wanted,
right?
Can it carry over or no?
I think they know what it looks like, and that's huge. I mean, again, the myth is if you haven't been there, then your first time isn't going to go so well. And that's, I don't know that that's why it went the way that it did for us, but I think the environment is what it needs to be at our place. There's a bitterness there. Obviously, a lot of pride we went, but there's a bitterness that we didn't play as well as we wanted to and play as well as the fans deserve because we had a huge following that came there.
What do you attribute that to? Is it the stadium is just overwhelming? Is it the experience? I've been to Omaha. It's an incredible opportunity, great bucket list item for any fan. To coach there, to play there for the first time, what maybe surprised you? What do you attribute? I mean, it's a destination to get there, but what do you maybe attribute things to once you got there?
I think in our case in specific, Mr. Abbott, and that's the lefty from Virginia we saw. And the first day I watched him on video, I knew it was going to be a challenge, and it was. But the other thing is, a lot of times it's a destination in guys' minds, coaches and players. And getting there is almost like winning a trophy or a national championship. So it's kind of like, well, we made it, so this is the parade. Yeah. And that's a hard mindset to get over. And I don't think our guys were satisfied, and I don't think they didn't think they belonged or want. But it is kind of a destination, and it's kind of like, well, we made it.
Yeah.
And that was a huge goal for our kids. We don't talk about it that much in the locker room, but we achieved a goal, and unfortunately that might have taken away from our performance once we were actually there.
You get tired of talking about it?
No, I think when people come up to us and say they had a blast in Omaha, what I want to say is I know what you mean by saying that. You mean you want to go back.
Yeah.
And it's not that easy to get back there.
The thing I appreciate, last time we had you on the show, you told us that the LSU coaching search was at the forefront of Omaha. And you said, look, I met with the leadership crew of the team, and they told me not to bring it up with the team.
Yeah.
True?
No doubt. A couple of the guys that are now in minor league baseball, and they said, with all due respect, Coach, and I think maybe I was getting a little ego-ish with them, hey, do you guys need to know my business or our coaching staff's business? And they said, to be honest with you, Coach, and I said, that's why I'm talking to you. Be honest. And we don't give it a dang. I know we're on the air. We don't care. It's too close-knit of a group. We got a focused goal in mind, and we're trying to get it done. And
your coaches probably wanted to know.
Yeah, we left them in the dark a little bit. Jimmy's pretty good at what he does, and let him handle that deal. But this is where our hearts were. This is where our roots now are. Everyone's got houses, building families. And we've invested a lot in what we got going on. And to be honest with you, Omaha was great. And who knows, we may never go back. But in our minds, we have not achieved anything close to what we plan to do.
Is it cool to have the AD say that you're in charge of the stadium renovations?
No doubt.
You get to have the blueprint, whatever you want, right?
Say you want this and you want that. And also you've got someone who's very, very ambitious as it relates to finances, whether it be, it could be NIL. I know that's a touchy subject. Anything related to finances, this guy's been built to do this job his whole life. If you look at kind of how he's been bred to be an administrator, and that's what he's going to tackle, and he's going to let us, all the coaches, do our job.
What baseball stadium do you think has the best environment right now, college baseball stadium? What would you, I know you guys had an incredible experience and you have a great home field advantage, but where have you gone and said, man, I'd like to have that. I love what they're doing at this particular place.
Sure. Well, Baum Stadium is where I worked at Arkansas prior to coming here, and I don't know that they like me very much anymore. I mean, Coach Van Horn and I couldn't be closer, but we had a spat last year.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I've received some text messages and things like that. I don't know how it got out there, but it's out there. But that's a great place. There's a lot of Cardinal. You mentioned the Cardinals, a great baseball city in St. Louis. There are Cardinal fans there, and they just know baseball, and they're into it. And they show up early, and they stay late, and it's full all the time, regardless of who you play. So I have a lot of respect for that baseball program and just that community, and that's kind of what we want here. But I think you could stereotype each SEC town. I mean, you especially, SEC town, SEC fan base, so on and so forth. In our group, our thing is rowdy. One of the coaches last year said it's nasty in Lindsey Nelson Stadium. So if that's our deal, then cool. Make it nasty.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we've been going to SEC cities every week, and we've been taking this gigantic bus with Clay's face on it. I mean, I have to ask you, what are your thoughts when you see this man plastered on the side of a bus?
What's crazy is, I'm not exactly humble or shy, but even I saw this, and I was like, that seems a little bit extreme. So this is Fox, if you can see the side of the bus there. Like, Fox came to me and they said, hey, we want, this thing to get noticed as it's driving around. What do you think of this? And I was like, man, that's pretty aggressive. So when you surprised me, but also, the first bus we had broke down, so they had to get a new bus. But it was
towing Clay around.
Yeah, I was getting towed around.
That thing's fancy. I don't think it's going to break down. And Clay's intellect is impressive, but I was like, dang, he's been working out based off the physique that's going on there with no shirt and whatnot.
It's roids. I don't know that I would be able to pass the drug testing to be able to play in the in any of the leagues right now.
Tony, thanks so much for stopping by. Best of luck to you and your squad this season.
Thank you so much. And nothing like an environment on a college football Saturday, so hopefully you enjoy it as much as we will.
We'll be back with more with OutKick the Tailgate right after this.
There's never been a more challenging time to be an investor. Our stock markets are overvalued by every measure with record low cap rates. Cryptocurrency can go from boom to bust overnight, and inflation is making everything hard to predict. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just sit back and watch your money grow? That's where Farmfolio comes in. Farmland ownership made easy. Farmland's an asset class that's often overlooked, but it's one that's consistently delivered higher returns than other investments with significantly less volatility. You could buy a farm lot from Farmfolio, and we'll manage every aspect of your farm property, from crop care, harvesting, and sales of your produce through our company-owned packing facilities and international sales offices. With Farmfolio, farmland ownership has never been easier. Simply sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labor. Farmfolio, you own, we farm, you.
OutKick The Tailgate presented by Farmfolio. We are live in Knoxville, Tennessee. Bobby Carpenter back with us. Jonathan Hutton, Jill Savage. Pretty awesome stuff. Great crowd out here so far. Beautiful scene with the water behind us. Everything is going right so far, guys.
Oh, it's been fantastic. It's warming up, so I know you're feeling a little bit better. Got that sun on your back.
I'm good.
Feeling good. It's shaping up to be a great day. To me, this is college football weather. You can smell the leaves. Got a little crispness in the air. Absolutely fantastic.
Can we make Chad even more jealous by bragging about today?
We should. Yeah, we should start a list. We should start texting him all at the same time and let him know what he's missing out on with his alma mater. Here, Paxton's back. It's a big deal. And you know what else we have going on right now is the Farmfolio Fact or Fiction, my favorite segment each weekend. And we are going to start in the college football playoff rankings because that is basically what they make us do with their TV show, their little drama fest that they have every week, every Tuesday night. So let's start with Fact or Fiction. Michigan deserves to be ahead of Michigan State this week. Bobby?
Well, based upon what the committee has told us and the fact that we're supposed to believe that head-to-head matters and all these different things, and then all of a sudden, well, it's like, well, if it's head-to-head, if it's close in proximity as far as the game times, but wait a second, it was just like the last game that they won. Now, I understand Michigan controlled it, and Michigan State had to battle back, but to me, the TV show element of it comes into play in a huge way. It's the first time where we haven't just done the final 6, we've done the final 7. And so as you sit there and you look at that, like, that's 7 boxes sitting there. That must mean that they're going to flip this and keep Michigan State ahead. I'm like, no, I bet they're going to drop them, and they'll find some reason to do it. And ultimately, that's what they've done. I think Michigan State should be ahead of Michigan. I think head-to-head matters. It was close. Michigan State lost. It was to a Purdue team that's pretty decent. It ended up being a 2-score game, but it was pretty close throughout most of it. And I don't think Michigan's looked to be overwhelming. And if they judge you by quality wins, Michigan State has a much better win over Michigan than Michigan does over anyone else.
Okay, so this is BS, okay? But we all acknowledge that it is. Why is Oregon ranked where they are? Because they beat Ohio State, okay?
That was a long time ago.
Head-to-head apparently matters there, right? Like we've seen them play.
Don't say that too loud to Bobby right here. Come on.
It's Buckeyes. We always point to that. Michigan State beats Michigan 2 weeks ago. And the Wolverines are ranked ahead of them after 1 loss. Like, why have head-to-head? You can't argue that head-to-head matters when the committee does that. And it's simply it's for TV, it's for drama, it's for the reality show that is these rankings week to week. Ultimately, it's going to play out. Everyone acknowledges that part too. It's worth discussing though because these guys get into a room, they spend their day deciding how to rank this, and then I believe in the conspiracy of ESPN comes in and says, okay, how can we make this a better TV show? And they put Michigan State behind Michigan.
Well, they added
after we saw them beat them.
It just happened.
They added a 7th box.
Yeah.
I know.
Why add the 7th box? Here's the point where I'm at with it. And Gary Barta, had statements. He's like, we just don't look at the box scores. We watch all the games. It comes out like really
Have they seen Cincinnati?
Condescendingly,
No.
like, hey, we look at this, we watch it, we have all the information. Like, first of all, no one's watching all the games. Let's be honest about that because all of you have other jobs. Yeah. Gary, you're I believe the AD at Iowa. You have other responsibilities. That's why you really should have people who this is their job. Get them on there, get them dedicated, compensate them, and then you can hold them accountable as opposed to people that are, quote, volunteering because they don't want to deal with the criticism, and I don't blame them. But my idea is, like, let's make this like a Wheel of Fortune thing. Let's put up 8 of them, and instead of going, like, 8 and work to 1 or 1 to work to 8, let's pop up 8, and then we'll pop up 3, and then we'll pop up 5 and try to figure out who's in those little windows.
But here's the crazy thing. They went to 7. At number 8 is unbeaten Oklahoma, and no one talks about the Sooners being unbeaten and ranked 8th.
Yeah, and they had a bye last week, to be fair, so they didn't play.
They didn't lose.
And they didn't move.
They didn't lose. That's my point.
No
one's talking about
They shouldn't have been placed at number 8 to begin with, so I'm not okay with that, but the fact that they didn't move them after they didn't play, I'm okay with that aspect.
You agree with me, though?
The other piece of that, too, is you have 2 undefeated teams that are sitting there. We make a huge deal about Cincinnati.
Right.
And talking about strength of schedule. They've beaten Notre Dame and everything. Yeah, we got it. And the rest of their schedule isn't great. Oklahoma hasn't played a great schedule. But, like, no one's talking about them at 8th. And they're a team that's been in the college football playoff. They've had
year after year.
Back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners. They've had all of these things.
Yeah.
that you look at and say, these are the trappings of success that a good program should have. It's like, they're 8th. And if they lose to Baylor today, you know what? We'll drop down to the top 10.
And then everyone will say, see, we told you so. We told you so.
We knew it. We knew it all along.
Yeah.
We were at the LSU-Alabama game last week.
Oh,
so the
how about
next topic is going to be based solely on that because we were in the Farmfolio suite. Shout out to those guys once again for letting us do that. But they were not very happy, Alabama fans, throughout a stretch of that game. So fact or fiction, we should be concerned about the Alabama offense after what we saw against LSU.
I think there's some room to be concerned because this isn't the team that we've seen the last couple of years that's like, hey, maybe we'll run it for 250 today. Maybe we'll throw it for 400 today. And it seemed like they could kind of do anything they've wanted. They've had Heisman Trophy winners at running back.
Yep.
They've had Heisman Trophy winners at receiver now. You know, the quarterback, they've always had the big dominant offensive line. Well, against Texas A&M, that offensive line, it didn't look so dominant. There were some chinks in the armor. There was some seepage coming through. You know, Bryce Young didn't look all that comfortable. They couldn't get the running game established. And so I've watched some of these games, and a guy who I watched a lot while he was at Ohio State who's transferred in, who's kind of bailed them out sometimes with some big-time plays. If you take Jameson Williams off that offense, I think they may even have another loss because he's a guy that's provided a lot of big plays and sparks when they've needed to get critical yards.
I can't tell you their identity on offense. Eddie Lacy, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, they don't have that guy in the backfield. That was their identity. Bryce Young is very good. Their offensive line I don't trust. But here's the big thing. It's not about their offense. It is about it's the composure. It's the poise. I am seeing week to week special teams miscues. They start the fourth quarter with 12 men on the field. In week 10, I've never seen that from a Nick Saban coach team. Maybe once or twice throughout the season, and he goes ballistic, and you don't hear about it again, right? This is a weekly occurrence with this group where they have a personal foul, they rough the punter, and then Tennessee keeps the football, and they go down and score on the very next play. There are small things that will get them beat in the college football playoff. They're very good, but are they the Alabama of 2 years ago, 3 years? No, they're not, because they have these mental miscues week in, week out, and a lot of them happen on offense.
Which, you know, one of the things that's very uncharacteristic for a Nick Saban team, and so talking to a lot of guys, they're like, they'll get this fixed. Nick always gets it fixed.
Yeah.
However, now, we're sitting here, and it's week 11, there's 3 games left, and some of these issues still keep creeping up, and so then you begin to ask yourself, well, maybe it's some of the players that they have out there, they're just not as disciplined, there might be some issues, and we always think they're correctable. Maybe this is just kind of who this team is at this point.
And it feels like this is a different Nick Saban, right? I think that he understands what his team is more, because when you see him post-game in these interviews, he's not, you know, a Nick Saban, if we had all of these issues that we're talking about in week 10 going ballistic, right? But I think that he understands the product that he has right now. He's still trying to make it better week in and week out, but coming to reality that this isn't the team from 2-3 years ago.
Well, but they're still capable of knocking off the Georgia Bulldogs. Like, I still want to watch that game, right? They're just not. It's not a shoo-in that they're in the playoff now.
Right.
Because if they lose one more, I don't think they're making it, like I was certain of earlier this season on the Tailgate show.
Well, and what you talked about identity.
Yeah.
I think it's identity and consistency. And, like, they put together a great half. All of a sudden, they're struggling. Whoosh, they can take care of a game and they can get it done. But those are things with Nick Saban, always highly consistent. You always felt like they had identity on both sides of the ball.
The closest thing I saw to identity was against Ole Miss. We were there for that too. And they ran the ball right at that Ole Miss defense, right? And we were thinking shootout, and they turned around and handed Robinson, and he ran for 250 that day. Haven't seen that guy since.
You guys are talking about identity. Let's go to Nebraska right now. Fact or fiction, Nebraska did the right thing, keeping Scott Frost for one more season. Last week on the show, we were trying to fire him off. This week, now we know he is staying back. A lot of the offensive coaches have been let go.
So here's the problem with Nebraska. If you fire Scott Frost, who else are you going to get? And where are you at on the pecking order? You got to think USC's open, LSU's open, Florida could potentially have been open. There's a lot of jobs out there. TCU's coming up, and you start looking at these different jobs, and you're thinking, well, where are we ranking with that, and who could we potentially get to come here? And if you watch Nebraska this year, and I've watched so many of their games, and it has been painful. We talk about those miscues with Alabama, like, show me a game where you look at and Nebraska's played and you're like, they look definitively outmatched. Like, they've been in every game. They've all been one score outside of Ohio State. And heck, if they would have scooped up that strip sack, they could have had a chance to go win that football game. So they've been right there. They have to find a way to play better situational football. They've had turnovers. They've had penalties that have cost them late in games. They need to get that cleaned up. I'm a believer you give Scott Frost another year to do it, because I'm not really sure if you fire him, you're going to get somebody better.
I appreciate the patience, because we don't see patience anymore in college sports, specifically college football, with coaches, right? 3 years out. Florida State, Tennessee, Miami, list goes on and on. The thing that bothers me is they haven't, surely they know this, Bobby. Adrian Martinez is not the guy, right? If he's in the game is not going your way if it's close. And it's like Alabama with the penalties this year. I can't figure out why they continue to, and it's because they don't have anybody else. But the optimism, the reason for optimism is right here at Neyland Stadium, because they have one quarterback in the transfer portal from Hendon Hooker here from Virginia Tech. And look at what they're doing offensively. Give Scott Frost the quarterback in the transfer portal and let him go. I understand he's stuck with the wrong guy. To me, that's their biggest issue. Figure out the quarterback position and allow your former quarterback to fix it. And it's very rare that the coach is told, get rid of your staff or you're gone too, and he doesn't stick by his staff. That tells you he knew the ultimatum was real.
Well, he knew it was real. He's an alum there.
Yeah.
And he took a pay cut.
No doubt.
$1 million.
But think about what you never see that anymore, right?
Well, it's because he's an alum. You know how hard it is?
I know.
When that's your school to come back. You were the conquering hero. He was Caesar returning to Rome, coming back to solve all the problems. We forget he was the hottest hire at the time. He could have had all these jobs we're talking about, LSU, USC.
Could have had Florida.
It was Florida and Nebraska that he was choosing.
Those are the jobs. Like, he could have taken it, and he chose his alma mater, and so they were grateful. He's come back, and the one thing we forget, and I'll never forget his line, it was essentially like, we're good at quarterback, but it was something along those lines. Joe Burrow wanted to go to Nebraska. Like, his family had ties there. They chose Adrian Martinez. And it's like, you maybe picked the wrong horse in this situation. And I wouldn't say maybe. I think it's obvious that you did.
Yeah.
They've got to find a way to get it done. He's got to make some adjustments. And I respect this with Scott Frost, the loyalty. He brought his entire staff from Central Florida.
Yes.
Probably shouldn't have done it. And I think it probably took a little bit of time to realize, like, these guys maybe don't have the recruiting ties that we need. Maybe they're not quite up to snuff of a big-time Power 5 program. And he took a pay cut. He wanted to stay. I think he wants to get this figured out, because when you get your dream job, you marry your dream girl, like, what else are you supposed to do? Where do you go from here? Everything else is going to be a letdown. And so I think he wants to make this work at all costs.
Without patience, you get burned. We've seen time and time again. I like the fact that Nebraska's keeping him. I also like the fact that he's agreed to make some changes, right? Both sides came to that. Give him a chance to get it right.
A chance to get it right. We've seen the same story at Texas now over and over and over again. The last 3 coaches at Texas all started with a 4-5 record. That is exactly where Steve Sarkisian is right now. So fact or fiction, Sark is the guy to turn it around. Finally, Texas will be back. Will they?
I have no idea. He's been there 1 year. Like, it's too early to draw a conclusion, and they're moving to the SEC.
Is that good or bad, though?
I think it's great for the SEC. Does it drop expectations for Texas? No. Look at if you compete against Nick Saban, it's terrible, right? So I need all of those answers to draw a conclusion on Sark. I have been impressed, though, with what I've seen this year based on my expectations for what I thought would go on with the Longhorns.
I think he might have been a victim of his own expectations. They came out, they get the victory against Louisiana, then they lose to Arkansas. But all of a sudden, they win some games there, and you start looking at it, and I believe they're 4-1. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And they had OU. That's probably the thing that hurts the most.
Yep.
So you win that game, that might be an inflection point for your season, to where instead of being 4-5, maybe you're 7-2. Who knows? 6-3. Could have been a much different scenario. They don't win that game. I always think we're just so quick to jump the gun. It's because we want it to be true. Like, every year, Texas is back. And then all of a sudden they kind of hit this stretch after OU, and they kind of peter out a little bit. Hopefully Sark turns it around, but this year, like, it's been kind of concerning what I've seen. Like, I haven't seen a team that I feel like has played significantly better than the team did last year.
Jill, are they getting Arch Manning? Like, that's the answer. If Texas lands Arch Manning, yes, that's what it comes down to here, and they've missed on the quarterback position.
There are a lot of schools waiting for that answer, Hutton.
They're in the
a lot
mix,
of schools.
Texas is squarely in the mix.
I thought
now.
Lane Kiffin was getting him at LSU.
Maybe.
In the double switch.
The double switch.
Maybe. Kiffin needs to stay at Ole Miss. It could be Kiffin there.
That's a wrap on this week's Farmfolio Fact or Fiction. To learn more about farmland ownership, contact Farmfolio at farmfolio.net/Clay or call 833-FARM-LOT. Once again, Paxton Elrod. I mean, she's living her best life right now. Paxton, I know this is your alma mater. Let us know what you have going on right now.
Down the boat dock a little bit, and I have stumbled upon some of my people, some Vol fans. We got Pete, Christian, Miranda, and Champ, most importantly. How you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Yeah? How long have y'all been pulling your boat up, tailgating, and enjoying games in Neyland Stadium?
I believe this is the 4th year we've done it, and we haven't missed a game, and we've been doing it for 5 years, but because of COVID last year we couldn't do it. So we haven't missed a game in 4 years when we could be down here. So
okay, so ride or die Vol fans. I'm gonna
yes, 100%. Go Vols all the way.
Okay, I love that. Love the energy down here. So, to people that don't know, who've never been to Neyland Stadium, never been to UT, which I don't associate with people like that, but what is so special about tailgating at Tennessee?
it's just, especially this kind of tailgating on the river. There's unique to Tennessee. The camaraderie here is awesome. The fans are amazing. They've been loyal from day one, even though we've had some struggles here and there. We've never given up on Tennessee, and we're gonna fight for them today.
So it feels like 98?
Sure, yeah.
I like the energy. I like that. So we just had some other fans come down. Obviously, this is very unique to Tennessee. Do we know any other school that competes with tailgating on a boat?
I believe there's not anyone that gets close to this. So, no, this is a very unique experience for university sports, absolutely.
So I love that. I have one question for you. How many of these are you going to drink today?
I got like 50 of them, so hopefully all of them.
So you're going to go for 50? Like, you're going for it?
Oh, yeah, by all means.
Okay. Well, on that note, guys, I'm going to go on their boat, Beautiful Dawn, and share some drinks and tailgate with them, and I'll catch you guys later.
If they have 50 of them, we're coming down.
Yeah, might as well, right?
We'll be there.
They have a few, yeah.
Paxton, I just want to go hang out, and she always gets to eat, she gets to drink, she gets to do the best stuff. We're the ones sitting here at the table. She gets to go do all the fun stuff.
It was my first show in here. I didn't know how appropriate it was to open a live and active beverage during show.
It's encouraged.
Okay, well, if that's the case,
Tailgate.
maybe we come back from the break. That might be what's happening.
When was the first time you tailgated?
I will tell you this story. We would, when you go as a kid and your family and friends.
Yeah, but as a player, you don't get to see any of this.
I would sit there, and the way it sits at Ohio State is the hotel that the players stay at. It's adjacent to the stadium, and you can see all the parking lots. And we played a handful of night games. Didn't play a ton back then, but on those night games, you would sit there during the day, and I just watch everybody. I'm like, that looks like such an awesome time. I can't wait until I'm done playing to be able to go and experience that, because these big schools, it's absolutely fantastic. So much passion, so much fun. And so I get to do it when I was playing in the NFL maybe once a year for home games. And then my first year out, I was down there for a noon kick.
Yeah.
I was down there at 8 o'clock, 7:30, ready to go, ramping that thing all the way through the day. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years. Kids started getting older, and I realized Sundays were a lot more difficult to deal with through a whole day of tailgating. So I'm like, you know what? It might be time to kind of ratchet it back and pick your spots a little more.
That's true. We are enjoying this tailgate, and Bobby is here because Chad Withrow is out in a wedding this weekend. So we had to do a poll question. We do poll questions every week here on the show, Bobby. So this week I felt like it was appropriate to ask, is it acceptable to get married on a fall football Saturday? Yes or no?
Maybe if you live in Europe or a country outside of the United States. Especially if you live in an area that's big-time college football. What are you doing? I've had friends that have done this. They did it when I was playing. I'm like, you get married during football season. Are you just saying you don't want me to come to your wedding?
Yeah.
And then I get really upset about this. When if you're going to do it, okay, maybe we'll work the wedding time, make sure the game's at night. And they're like, well, no offense, it's usually the bride. well, this is about our day. We don't want to have TVs up.
Hey.
So, you know what? If you don't have TVs up and it's going to be during the game, then I'm going to show up. I'm going to say hi. I'm going to give you my gift. I'm going to give you a hug and say, sorry, but I'm going to go watch this game. And so at least if you're going to do it, have some televisions up. Allow the game to be visible. Turn it into basically a watch party. That I'll put on like the small end of acceptance, but it's never really appropriate to get married in the fall.
So everybody on Twitter, we had 85% say no, it is not acceptable to get married on a fall football Saturday.
We know our base, right? We know our based on that. Look, the answer is it depends. And there's a caveat to it. If you do it, you have to be willing to take the heat for it, right? And the wedding that Chad is at, they're at least laughing and they're a part of the joke, right? Like they're a poll question today because of this. It's acceptable because you're also rolling the dice on the weekend, right? You don't necessarily know the date of home games. It's okay. I can tell you this, though. If Tennessee wins today, I will be on the field. We will be taking a selfie. We will be sending it to Chad as he is in the wedding and could not make it to his alma mater to watch number 1 go down.
We're excited that Bobby Carpenter is here, though.
Yes.
He's been filling in great for the first hour. So OutKick the Tailgate. Stay with us. Hour number 2 right after this.
This is one of the other great things I love is you get the random runner.
There's never been a more challenging time to be an investor. Your stock markets are overvalued by every measure with record low cap rates. Cryptocurrency can go from boom to bust overnight, and inflation is making everything hard to predict. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just sit back and watch your money grow? That's where Farmfolio comes in. Farmland ownership made easy. Farmland's an asset class that's often overlooked, but it's one that's consistently delivered higher returns than other investments with significantly less volatility. You could buy a farm lot from Farmfolio and we'll manage every aspect of your farm property, from crop care, harvesting, and sales of your produce through our company-owned packing facilities and international sales offices. With Farmfolio, farmland ownership has never been easier. Simply sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labor. Farmfolio, you own, we farm, you.
OutKick The Tailgate, presented by Farmfolio, second hour. We're here live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and Bobby Carpenter, Jonathan Hutton, Jill Savage. Bobby asked for some drinks, and asking you shall
Here we go.
receive.
Let's toast it up.
Cheers.
Bobby.
Let's get it going.
Cheers to Tailgate.
Shout out to TJ over there mixing them up.
Farmfolio.
There we go. Get it done.
There we go. It would almost be silly if we had an Ohio State Buckeye next to us, and we don't actually dive in to your game this weekend, because I don't know if you've been paying attention or not, but Purdue is on quite the streak right now of upsets of top teams. And you look at Jeff Brom, he has 3 top 5 upsets, including 2 this season. Are you nervous, Bobby?
I mean, it's full Jamie Lannister, the Kingslayer. I mean, they've been taking them down, whether it was Iowa going in to Iowa City getting it done, then obviously Michigan State getting the win. When you have an explosive offense, and this is a little bit akin to what we're talking about with Tennessee and Georgia, when you have an explosive offense that can gobble up yards in chunks, you never really feel good as an opposing team playing them, because if you have a 10-point lead, 17-point lead, all of a sudden 2 plays, they could be on the board right now, and then you've got to go out and reestablish yourself. So this Purdue team with Aiden O'Connell, they throw the football all over the place. Getting Xander Horvath back, running game will be improved. Like Jeff Brom, they're going to try to throw for 400 yards. Like, that's the goal of this Purdue offense. But they will mix in the runs. They want them to be timely and effective. They did that against Michigan State and were able to kind of salt that game away and take care of it at the end. So this Ohio State team, like, they're going to have their work cut out for them. Purdue's good on the defensive side of the ball, and so they're going to have to establish the run to keep that Purdue offense off the field. And we'll see if they're able to do that consistently, because the last 2 weeks, an offense that looks so high-flying has kind of sputtered when they've crossed the 50.
Is it bad that I trust Ohio State?
I don't think it's bad.
I'll say it. You don't have to say it. I trust Ohio State.
Okay.
I think they're the second best team in the country. I do. Do you disagree? I think they would beat Bama.
Are there any Bama fans around here?
I don't care. Like I said it last week.
We'll get Clay's security for you.
Yeah.
I think they would beat Bama.
Right.
I don't agree that they would be 10.5-point underdogs to Georgia. I mean, they would be. Vegas told me they would be. I think it would be a much tighter game, and I think they're improving week to week. I know we've seen some scares from them. That's college football this year.
Right.
There's one elite team, and then there's everyone else. And to me, at the top of the pack, it's like the AFC and the NFL. Ohio State, to me, is at the top of the pack.
So, Bobby, you said they have problems crossing the 50. They have problems in the red zone right now for this Buckeyes offense. In the last 10 trips in the red zone, they have 2 touchdowns, 7 field goals, and one time where they turned it over on downs. We saw the problems on defense through the first few weeks. They made those changes. They went out and lit up the scoreboard. Kind of coming through this final home stretch, are they? They aren't. It doesn't feel like they're settling in where they need to be.
Well, the thing was, the last couple of years with Justin Fields, you've watched an offense just go and hey, let's score 50 points. You know, he could do anything. And worst case scenario, he was a guy that was a pass-first quarterback, but you've watched him in the NFL. When he needs to get up and go, he could rip off 25-yard runs and get it done in a hurry. C.J. Stroud, their quarterback, isn't quite that. And so you mentioned the red zone. You know, they crossed the 50. That's why I think sometimes you need to be aggressive, take some shots, eliminate those red zone issues. But I look at this with Ryan Day. He's a really elite play caller. He does a fantastic job. I mean, I'd put him up there with Lincoln Riley, Brom, Chip Kelly, some of these guys, Sark, who do a great job, Lane, of doing a great job of crafting ways to take advantage of other teams' defenses. In 2019, they struggled in the red zone against Clemson. Couldn't get down there. They couldn't score. Next year, all of a sudden, they were much better. They scored every time they got in the red zone. They utilized the tight ends, some of the play-action passing game. So I believe he can get this fixed. I've seen it happen before. It's getting late in the year. It's time to get that done.
You know why I believe in Ryan Day and why he can get it fixed? Because he gets it fixed in week 2 or 3 of the college football season. He'll sit around and wait until the offseason to move Kerry Combs out of the defensive play caller position. I respect that, right? I respect the fact that Oklahoma is willing to make the quarterback change, and they're not sticking with the guy that was the Heisman favorite to begin the season. To me, that elevates them in my own mind, not in the committee's mind. But the fact that he's willing to make the change, and by the way, Kerry Combs is salt of the earth. Great dude. Right, you were down
here with him in Tennessee.
Titan secondary coach, yeah. Love him. Not fit for that position. And Ryan Day, to his credit, recognized it and made a change. Where did they improve the most? Up front. And that Ohio State defense. That's where I've seen the biggest change from earlier this season to now. And to me, that makes a big difference in the college football playoff.
Makes a huge difference because look at Georgia. Great teams.
Exactly.
Great teams have great offensive lines and defensive lines, and that's what Georgia has. That's what Bama normally has. Not quite that level this year. Ohio State's got a very talented offensive line, have to play better. Defensively, they struggled up front. They weren't getting pressure before. They weren't getting sacks. They make those adjustments. Larry Johnson, who might be the best defensive line coach in the country, great recruiter, great at developing players. And all of a sudden now, I believe they're sitting at the top of college football with 35 sacks. So they've appeared to remedy that problem. They have to continue to improve that. And that also, any secondary player will tell you, give me a great defensive line and ask me to cover for 3 seconds, I can do that. Don't ask me to chase them for 4 to 5.
Bobby, as an Ohio State grad, are you allowed to talk about Michigan, or is that off? If we can't go there.
What are the rules with that?
The Khaki King is one of my favorite characters in all of sports. I love Jim Harbaugh. I think he's great for the sport. I was happy he went to Michigan. Going back to your alma mater, a guy who's big and chesty, who likes to talk.
You keep beating them. Of course, you're going to be happy that he comes back.
Yeah. That makes it a little bit better. But you look at this, and this is to the point about Scott Frost earlier. Mm-hmm. They make a decision to keep Scott Frost. Let's not forget this season, it was like marriage counseling with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. Jim Harbaugh's taking a pay cut. The buyout's decreasing. They're both kind of maybe exploring what else is out there. They're in Tinder, swiping right, seeing if anyone swipes back. Hey, there was no feelers. Let's just finish this season together. And what do? All of a sudden they come out. They play well early. They establish the run. They've allowed Cade McNamara to kind of grow throughout the year. They've got a good defense. And they've been able to win that way. Now, will they be able to continue to do it? Michigan State got them. Can they do it against Ohio State? Can they do it today against Penn State? Those are other questions. But I think Jim Harbaugh's got this team playing pretty well. And believe me, I want to watch that game mean a lot at the end of the season. Same as the Iron Bowl, same as this guy. When you have these big rivalry games, you want to see those games be between top 10 teams that have a lot riding on the line because it makes it so great.
Jill, are you leading into the poll question or no?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
We're going to wait for Clay to sit down. Clay.
Sorry, because my answer with Michigan plays into the poll question
okay.
today.
Well,
I know you like to stay on script.
Great tease, Jonathan Hutton. We will go ahead and take a break and get Clay Travis in here right after this here on OutKick the Tailgate.
There's never been a more challenging time to be an investor. Your stock markets are overvalued by every measure with record low cap rates. Cryptocurrency can go from boom to bust overnight, and inflation is making everything hard to predict. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just sit back and watch your money grow? That's where Farmfolio comes in. Farmland ownership made easy. Farmland's an asset class that's often overlooked, but it's one that's consistently delivered higher returns than other investments with significantly less volatility. You can buy a farm lot from Farmfolio, and we'll manage every aspect of your farm property, from crop care, harvesting, and sales of your produce through our company-owned packing facilities and international sales offices. With Farmfolio, farmland ownership has never been easier. Simply sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labor. Farmfolio, you own, we farm, you.
OutKick The Tailgate, presented by Farmfolio. We are live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and a guy that knows a thing or two about Knoxville. It's right there on a sweatshirt.
And limes.
Travis.
Limes and football. What do they say? Maryland does crab cakes and football. I guess we do limes and football in Tennessee. But no, it's look. I was a little bit concerned that it was going to be maybe a little bit cold, but the sun's out. I think the early part of the game, it's not going to be freezing. I'm going to be a diva where you're from the Midwest. You're going to wrinkle your face at this, but I don't like to be cold in a football stadium. So
what is cold to you, Bobby?
Yeah, what would it have to be for you to be like?
Bobby was making fun of us last night when I was telling him it was
This to me is great game weather. As a player,
perfect.
you love it because you don't get tired, you don't sweat a ton. As a fan, this is near the bottom end. I'll take it a little lower unless it's hey, huge game, a lot riding on it. I don't care if it's 20 degrees. Give me something to drink. We'll lather up and get rolling.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere for the start of this game. The question is, can Tennessee harness that? To me, the number one question about Georgia-Tennessee is, can Tennessee make a couple of big plays early to feed off the momentum of the crowd, keep them wildly engaged? And then, this is why Georgia has not had a drive on offense all season with real pressure on them. What happens if Tennessee hits a couple of big plays early and it's 14-0 and Georgia takes possession and they're like, hey, we need to score and make this a game? I'm not sure exactly what that offense would do with a little bit of pressure on them because we've just never seen it.
And so that's why I would love to see this thing go into the fourth quarter. We come back from the fourth quarter, the commercial break. There's a meaningful drive, and you have to watch Georgia go out and execute and complete. Stetson Bennett gets into 3rd and 7, and this is a gotta-have-it situation. Yes. And if you can't convert, they're getting the ball back, and Tennessee's going to be coming right back down your throat. I would like to see that because I just want to see how Georgia responds because they haven't been tested like that all year.
They haven't. They've been able to play with double-digit leads, and you know better than anybody when you've got that double-digit lead, you don't have that weight on your shoulders.
No doubt.
And also, they haven't really played against a great offense. I mean, their defense is elite, 59 points total. I mean, that's freakish. But they've never really played against what I would consider to be a really good offense, and more importantly, an offense that's very explosive. And so, maybe they get a turnover. Maybe Tennessee makes a play in the punt return game, kick return game, and really just kind of puts some pressure on Georgia. And the one thing I think is it's hard to go 12 or 13 plays against this defense and score. But if you can have some chunk plays, which Tennessee has shown, Heupel has shown the ability to scheme up. Hendon Hooker has been fairly accurate when he's got guys behind the defense, taking the top off. I'm cautiously optimistic this could be a fun one.
So here's the reason. It's tough to go 12 or 13 plays against this defense when you're going to line up, you're going to huddle, and you're going to try to do it traditionally.
Right.
But if you can get past that 5th or 6th play, going no huddle, going tempo, as a defensive player, all of a sudden, your 3rd series of that, hands on hips, you're looking to the sideline, giving the helmet tap, and maybe there's some miscommunication, and that's when you start to see some of those chunks. That's when you might rip one for 20 yards on a run. And so that's what I want to see. This Georgia defense has been great, and to their credit, they haven't had to play much because they forced so many 3-and-outs.
Right.
Force them to get into the 70s and 80s in their play count, and let's see what they're able to do.
So in my mind, we all do this. We play out the game, right? I have looked back to the Alabama matchup for Tennessee as to how they make this a game today.
Right.
Clay mentioned special teams. Tennessee may actually own the upper hand in that category today. That might be the only thing they do well against Georgia. They need a special teams play, but they also need Georgia to make Alabama mistakes, roughing the punter, extra play, touchdown, right? Things like that keep them in the game in the first half to where you're in the fourth quarter. Now, Alabama passed the test. It was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter and it ended up being a blowout on the stat sheet. Can Tennessee get it to the fourth and then let the home crowd take over?
That's, to me, this is going to be at kickoff. That's why I told you should just go in even if you got to leave and don't get to stay for the
You got to go, yeah.
At kickoff, being in there and being able to see it, it will be an electric atmosphere. Can they ride that enthusiasm, that electricity to an early lead and keep it a game, as you said, into the fourth quarter, where at least you're within hailing distance and you get a big play that makes a difference, right? That, to me, is the question.
And so Kentucky was able to do that in the first half, and they put together that nice drive against Georgia. Yeah. And then coming out in the third quarter, all of a sudden the wheels fell off in a hurry. You have to be able – I think you can ride that momentum early if you can get it to halftime. And then you've got to be able to withstand the onslaught there in the third quarter when they're going to come back at you. Because if you can get it into that fourth quarter, having your home crowd behind you And the lights are going to be on.
Yeah.
It's going to be dark out. It's going to have an unbelievable feel and experience to it. And I think these fans here, the volunteers, they're ready to go. They're waiting for that, so just give them something to cheer for.
And you can't turn the ball over, right, against this defense. A punt is not an awful play, right? I mean, I
it's
think
not, but I want Heupel to be aggressive.
Well, I think you have to be aggressive, but I'm saying, like, hey,
I know, yeah.
If you're aggressive going down the field and you turn it over on a 30-yard pass play down the field, all right, but it can't be a pick six on a 5-yard out route.
But how about the fact that that Heupel has this team against the number one team in the country, and everyone is pointing to Tennessee as the best offensive test that this defense will face in the SEC? Yeah. That is remarkable to me as we sit here today.
I think if you're a Tennessee fan, what you have to be really happy about is Josh Heupel came in with a lot of talent that did not fit his system.
Yeah.
And they have been good offensively without
no excuses,
without players that were made for this system. So the questions on Heupel are still going to be, can he recruit at an elite level, right? That's a fair question, and certainly it's even hard to analyze that because the probation potential, the NCAA violations have been hanging over his head. But the ability to coach offense and score points, he has answered the question of whether his offense is going to work. Tennessee's going to score points. Can they build better talent around there? I think that's the question for recruiting. But the first year, I don't think things could have gone much better than what we've gotten so far.
You know what helps recruiting? Winning games like this.
Yeah, no
playing late in this, all of a sudden you get some recruits here and they see this environment and you're playing the number one team in the country and your offense, which, hey, this is the pitch. If I'm Josh Heupel, this is what I'm doing with guys who I inherited.
Right.
You're the guy. Come in here, be that guy. Get that elite quarterback. Get some of those wide receivers. Look at what we'll be able to do with you. And if you're able to have this success, and frankly, this year, regardless of what happens the rest of the season, I'm putting this in the success box already. Just
7-5 and going to a bowl game, I think is a very successful season. Now, it could have gone next level because you look back at Pitt and you look back at Ole Miss, and those were very winnable games that they didn't get. If they can be competitive on CBS a little bit later this afternoon and make people take note, they're going to beat South Alabama and they're going to beat Vanderbilt. So this is the time to prove. I wish that they were playing Florida, right now, as opposed to playing Florida in September, because I think Tennessee would kick Florida's ass right now.
I don't know how.
With Hendon Hooker, absolutely.
Yes.
I don't know how adamantly you feel about this, but I'm going to ask you for this week's poll question is which top team is most likely to get upset this weekend? Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, Purdue, Washington State, Oregon, or Michigan, Penn State?
I think Penn State's going to beat Michigan. I think that's going to be a low-scoring defensive game. They'll be fired up in Happy Valley. I'm not sold. Certainly, we've all seen Jim Harbaugh and the troubles that Michigan has had in big-time contests. Even though Penn State's not ranked, they've proven that they can play at a high level. They beat Auburn. They beat Wisconsin. Would have beaten Iowa on the road if they hadn't had the quarterback injury. So, I know Penn State fans are a little bit disappointed, obviously, with that Illinois game. But I feel good about their ability to get an upset here.
Yeah,
What's the poll results?
They are with you. 52% say Michigan at Penn State this weekend.
Yeah. Well, and the game opened up. I want to say Penn State was a favorite almost, or
swung
a pick
back
them.
the other direction.
It swung back, but it's right there. And for the reasons you said, when Sean Clifford, their quarterback, if he looks healthy, Penn State has a good front, can maybe shut down that run, and when you're playing at home and you're a dog, like there's something to that. You can get the crowd to feed off.
That's right. And also, you're talking about 18 and 19-year-old kids. Momentum can swing so quickly in college football in a way that doesn't necessarily happen in the NFL where people are professionals. But, 100,000 people start screaming at you. I think it also impacts the officials. Like sometimes you get a little bit more lenient calls because the crowd's got the officials a little bit rattled.
Especially in the SEC.
Some targeting calls?
Yeah, who knows?
Phantom targeting?
What might end up happening there. But I think it's going to be an awesome atmosphere. And Tennessee, really, to me, has no risk here, right? Like, what are they playing for? Georgia's got, if the game's tight, Georgia's got a lot on their plate. Because think about it. If Georgia's in the fourth quarter and this game's tight, Georgia's not just thinking about this game. They're like, oh, man, we went from thinking we're going to cruise through, play that SEC championship game against Alabama with nothing to lose, to if they're in a tight game in the fourth quarter, they lose to Tennessee, all of a sudden that's an elimination game against Alabama, and that guaranteed trip into the playoff isn't there. And so I hope Tennessee can get in their mind, get them thinking a little bit during the course of this game.
I think Michigan they need to watch out today of the poll question. I don't think anyone loses today. I know it's been a crazy college football season with upsets. I don't see an upset on the sheet. Michigan is the vote. Oregon is going to lose. It's not today, but they're going to lose, right?
They'll lose to Utah.
Utah's going to be a tough game on the road.
They'll likely have to face Utah twice, once in the regular season and then once theoretically again in the Pac-12 championship game.
Which opens up, the question of which for Oklahoma. We'll see what happens with Oklahoma on the road against Baylor today. That there's going to be, I think, that fourth playoff spot. I'm not sure that Cincinnati, they're going to let Cincinnati in. That fourth playoff spot, I think, is going to be open. Because I think it's a good chance that Ohio State's going to be in. I think there's a decent chance that Alabama upsets Georgia and both those teams get in before all is said and done. And then who is that fourth team? Is it somebody coming out of the Big 12? Is it Oregon? Is it Cincinnati? Are they going to impress people enough? That's
hypothetical.
Going to be interesting
to see. If Tennessee pulls the upset today, where does Georgia fall in the top four? They're not falling out. Where would they fall in the top four? And then could the loser of the SEC championship game with 2 losses still get in?
I think it depends on a lot what happens, because you mentioned OU. I mean, they've got Baylor, they've got Iowa State, and then they've got Bedlam. So they've got 3 tough games.
Plus the Big 12.
Plus the Big 12 championship game.
If they win out, they're going to be in.
They're in.
Right.
Same thing with Oregon, but they've got, like you said, they've got Utah twice. It depends, like, if Georgia, like, I would assume that it would be a close loss. I think we all envision this, like, it's probably a 3 or 7 point loss. It's not something where
I agree.
Tennessee comes in and wins this game by 14 or 21. I would anticipate that they might drop back
3
or 4.
Many loves Oregon. There'll be 2. Alabama will be 1.
I don't think they would slide them.
I don't think they would go very far. I mean,
they may put Oregon 1. Who knows?
They beat Ohio State. Remember?
Yeah.
Alabama. We were down in College Station for that loss. They still have to be kicking themselves because they still got to go to Auburn, and then they're going to have to win the SEC championship game. And, Georgia, after this, has got Georgia Tech in terms of FBS Power 5 conference opponents. The Georgia Tech has no chance against Georgia. So this is the last chance for Georgia not to be in the playoff, right? They're going to roll into Atlanta and be playing for seeding. And also probably they want to knock Alabama out so they don't have to play them again.
Which is good and bad. I mean, they'll be rested, they'll be healthy. But also, we would think that Alabama would be their most significant test. And when you haven't had to play games in the fourth quarter, you're not used to that type of pressure. Like, there is something to being battle-hardened and battle-tested.
Well, and my argument has been that, especially if we're going to be expanding to 12, I'm not sold on the need for conference championship games.
Right.
I like, you play the whole season, you can have co-champs or whatever it is. But to me, the 12-team playoff is going to make the conference championship game a little bit of a messy kind of situation oftentimes.
Does the TV value go down?
No, because I think that people are going to people love football.
I know, so we'll still see it.
I just say that having to play that extra game. I think there's a lot of years where there'll be 3 or 4 SEC teams in, and Team 3 and Team 4 that aren't in the playoff, that aren't in the SEC championship game at all, don't have
to play.
In that game.
That's fair.
We've been talking about a lot of scenarios for the college football playoff. But one of the things, we've already hit on Nebraska and their coaching staff changes. Florida, we haven't gotten to Florida and Dan Mullen and whatever is happening there after that loss to South Carolina. Clay, what's your take on Florida right now?
It's a mess. I mean, it feels Florida and Dan Mullen. I know they fired, Grantham, and they got rid of the offensive line coach. But Florida and Dan Mullen feel to me like a couple that is going to get divorced, but they still have to live in the house together, maybe for another year. And that's because I don't think either of them are going to have great options. I don't think that Florida wants to cut a big check to Dan Mullen. And I also don't think that there's a parachute job for Dan Mullen where he can kind of pull the ripcord and get out. And so, to me, that's the biggest challenge. They're not fit for each other, but they don't have the ability to break up yet.
And so here's the other piece. You've got USC open. You've got LSU open.
Yeah.
Where does Florida rank among those jobs? Is it a better job than LSU?
I think it is. I think Florida's a better job because the SEC West is tougher at the top right now than the SEC East is. I mean, Georgia is elite, but if you're Florida and you're the right coach, you look at them and say, hey, we play in Jacksonville every year. We can find a way to beat Georgia. And whereas if you're in the West right now, LSU's won championships with not great coaches, right? And Coach O and Les Miles. Alabama, Nick Saban may coach until he's 80. A&M is rolling right now with Jimbo in terms of recruiting and how they're building everything out. So I just think the East is a better side to be in because I think it looks like Tennessee is going to reestablish itself, maybe with Josh Heupel as a top 3 SEC East team. But, Kentucky has never been to the SEC championship game. I'm not sold on South Carolina. Vandy is never very good. And Missouri is kind of a mess in year 2. I didn't expect them to be this bad with Drinkwitz. So, you break that down, I think the West is way tougher than the East.
Is it? I really like Dan Mullen. It's weird to me at the press conference 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, that he treated November like he was going through like this gauntlet of teams. He had South Carolina, Samford, Florida State, and some other team, right? Missouri. He treated that like he was on the hot seat with those teams coming up. All you have to do is stand up at the podium and say, we're handling everything, we're on the right path, and finish 8-4 and go into the offseason. And he acted as though he was facing Tennessee now, Alabama, like going through the gauntlet. That to me is a red flag that things behind the scenes are not nearly close.
There is a possibility. When Cliff Kingsbury got fired by Texas Tech, people thought it was crazy that Arizona came and gave him an NFL job.
Right.
It's worked out fabulously.
He wants the NFL.
So maybe
he doesn't have to worry about defense or recruiting.
He wants
Perfect.
the NFL.
Maybe there
it's also weird he hasn't had that offer yet.
Maybe there's an NFL owner that sees Dan Mullen and thinks, hey, he could be my Cliff Kingsbury, where he fits in better in the NFL than he does in college football. That would be a saving grace where, like I said, he had that parachute or that ripcord opportunity to jump to another job, and Florida could find someone.
So you almost feel like it's a Jim Harbaugh Michigan situation last year. Like, hey, we wouldn't be upset if you left, and by the way, like if you could find something else, we'll just kind of let this thing play its way out. And we'll shake hands and walk away, and it'll all be amicable at the end. It just a press conference, to your point, Hutton, like it seemed like there were things that were beginning to manifest themselves as he's talking to the mic. Pressure that's been building for a while with recruiting or whatever. I always reference the expectations in Starkville are a lot different than they are in Gainesville.
For
you
sure.
can't going 10-2. That's what people look as the floor at Florida.
It's
like,
weird.
Not the ceiling.
They lost to Bama, and people treated that loss like a win 2 months ago, and now they want him out.
Well, I think what we're seeing, my big issue with Dan Mullen is I don't understand how he ever picked Felipe Franks over Kyle Trask.
Amen.
And once Felipe Franks broke his leg, then suddenly there was this amazing opportunity to see how good Kyle Trask was. And Florida got on a roll with Kyle Trask.
Yes.
But if Felipe Franks never gets injured,
That's a great point.
Then I don't know that offense ever really comes together under Dan Mullen. So I think there's a little, and this is why I thought Florida would take a substantial step back. I think people underrated how good of a quarterback Kyle Trask was and how much he was able to maybe paper over difficulties at Florida otherwise. And this year you don't have that. AR-15 hasn't been able or willing to take that step. He hurt himself dancing, evidently in the team hotel, which is an amazing story. And so we'll see what ends up happening there. But I wouldn't be stunned. Missouri's not having a good year, but they have to go to Mizzou. It wouldn't stun me if Florida lost that game.
Clay, this is OutKick the Tailgate presented by Farmfolio. Tell everyone about Farmfolio.
Well, look, stock market near an all-time high. Inflation 31-year high. You've got all different sorts of asset classes that are really difficult to figure out. Maybe the play is put your money in farmland. I said this before. When my grandfather had an 8th grade education, worked at DuPont his whole life in the Nashville area, when he retired, he wanted to buy farmland as a hedge against inflation. So he bought a farm, moved to rural Tennessee, lived there, and the 70s happened and he was right. Stock market, if you're worried about it, taxes are about to skyrocket. Physical assets in real estate can make a lot of sense for so many different people out there. And I would encourage people to check out farmfolio.net/Clay. Maybe you need to diversify that portfolio. You've got stocks, you've got assets spread around. For $30,000, you can buy a substantial piece of farmland. Check it out, see if it makes sense for you financially. I've done it, farmfolio.net/Clay.
Jill, Clay owns a farm.
That's right.
I own a lime. I brought these limes.
Yeah.
Clay owns part of a lime farm down there. So Farmfolio, thanks so much.
Not even a euphemism. That's a real thing.
For letting us do this every weekend. Clay, thanks for stopping by.
I got to go hop on Fox and do my pick for Georgia, Tennessee. And we got
Georgia.
We got a great crowd out here. Tennessee's going to cover, but I think the Bulldogs.
All right, OutKick the Tailgate rolls on right after this.
There's never been a more challenging time to be an investor. Your stock markets are overvalued by every measure with record low cap rates. Cryptocurrency can go from boom to bust overnight, and inflation is making everything hard to predict. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just sit back and watch your money grow? That's where Farmfolio comes in. Farmland ownership made easy. Farmland's an asset class that's often overlooked, but it's one that's consistently delivered higher returns than other investments with significantly less volatility. You could buy a farm lot from Farmfolio, and we'll manage every aspect of your farm property, from crop care, harvesting, and sales of your produce through our company-owned packing facilities and international sales offices. With Farmfolio, farmland ownership has never been easier. Simply sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labor. Farmfolio, you own, we farm, you.
OutKick The Tailgate presented by Farmfolio. We were talking about farms, and you guys both were growing up on farms. Listen, I'm from Iowa. I did not technically grow up on farms, but all of my relatives had farms, so kind of.
I feel like I earned Bobby's respect because he said, Jill.
Yeah, you did.
Bobby said, Jill, you and I can talk about Farmfolio. And I was like, guys, I grew up on a farm. And you gave me a double take like, really? City slicker?
This city guy?
Because, I mean, you don't have boots
Look at the
on. I mean,
shoes.
like, Clay has the cowboy boots. I mean, I thought you were more the urban cowboy Hutton. I mean, I thought it was Joe and I. And then I find out there are people that live in Iowa who don't live on farms, which definitely hurt me.
Breaking stereotypes across.
You know, we grew up with some
the
cattle.
spectrum today.
Hutton and I are sitting here reminiscing about steering cattle and what that's all about and what that's like. So it's a lot of fun if you really get down to it.
It was fun for him. He loved it. I used a head gate. He did not. That's the difference between the two of us.
Some people will know what that means. Some people won't.
Shout out Morrison.
Look, guys, we have our drinks here. We're going to need some refills pretty soon. But the person that is, again, having the most fun out of any of us is Paxton Elrod. Paxton, what do you have going on right now?
First of all, Jill, I would just like to say I'm pretty sure the entire state of Iowa is a farm, but that's maybe just a misconception from us down here in the South. But I am here with the one and only Dusty from Big Orange Tailgate. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's Saturdays in the South. Are you kidding me? It's paradise.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what we got behind me. I mean, this used to be an ambulance, I believe, and it's bright orange on the inside, and then we're tailgating, right?
That is correct. So my father and I converted this thing out, spent probably 200 man-hours together doing this thing. It's a labor of love. We've been doing this for 22 years, and it's a destination tailgate. So everybody comes out just to see this and be with us and eat our food and just to see the tailgate, and it's been fantastic. We love inviting the crews in from other schools, and it's just been fantastic.
Okay, so why did we start this? Was it just a whim, and we're Vol fans, so why not just get an ambulance and start tailgating?
No, it's about the F's, and you got to be careful with that. But it's about the F's. It's family, friends, football, and food.
Okay, I didn't know where you were going with that, but I see where you.
Yeah, that was a little safer than what you thought, right?
Very true. Yeah, very true. Well, I love it. I love the entire environment. Are you guys always right out here outside of Calhoun?
Absolutely. We're at the front door of Calhoun. You walk out the front door and you're going to see this ambulance, and we're a staple. We've been here in this parking lot for 8 years, and if you know Calhoun's, you know Big Orange Tailgating.
That's true. So I have to ask, so how many people typically that are waiting in this line back here come over here? They just say screw the line. I'm just going to come hang out with you guys.
We've actually done that before. We've actually gone down the line and said, hey, look, if you just want to come over and just eat with us, feel free to do so. One of the greatest games that we've ever experienced was the Oklahoma game, and this tailgate was red and not orange, but I know that seems a little rough, but it was fantastic. Those folks were unbelievable, and that was one of the best tailgates we've ever had.
Well, that's Southern hospitality there for you. He's already given me a drink. We got some branding on it, Oh, would you look at that, OutKick. I'm going to hang out here in the ambulance. I was on a boat, but now I'm going to be in an ambulance, and I'll catch you guys later. We'll do some shots at the end of the show. Okay?
Paxton, they call that foreshadowing for later in the evening. That's what that is. Enjoy your beverages. It is time now, back for us. Picks against the spread.
I want to go where Paxton is.
Yeah, well, soon. Okay. We'll get through this. You'll tell the people how to make some money from FanDuel. And then it's going to be on for us because we have one heck of a game here with Georgia and Tennessee, but we will start with a different SEC matchup that we have already talked about today. Texas A&M at Ole Miss. The Aggies favored by 2.5 points in this one. I don't know if you know this or not. Hutton is usually all in on Lane Train, so
usually
by 100% of the time.
The whole time. I don't even need to answer this, Joe. Ole Miss has the better quarterback. Ole Miss wins. Take the Rebels.
Ole Miss hasn't been able to stop anybody, though.
Take the Rebels.
That's one of the issues. Their defense has been struggling. A&M's got a really good defense. They've got the momentum. I feel like Matt Corral's been beat up. But with that being said, I am partial to Lane Kiffin, too.
There you go.
There's a lot of Lane Kiffin.
You fit in with the show already,
Lane Kiffin,
Bobby.
and you take the points.
Yeah, you're going to give me a couple points here. I'd like it if you could give me a full 3 to get the field goal for the push. You're only going to give me 2.5.
He's not kicking a field goal anyway.
You're right.
We're
the
good.
Lane Train, I mean, if anybody...
That's right. He's not kicking a field goal.
The man
He's not going to do it.
The man caught a spitter a couple weeks ago over here at Neyland
right.
Stadium right out of the air.
Respect.
respect it. You got to take it. I'm going to take the points. Ole Miss covers it.
We go to the Big 12 where they don't need defense anyway. Oklahoma at Baylor. Oklahoma favored by 6.5.
Gosh, looking at this game, I feel like you give me 6.5 points, almost a touchdown. Like, I like what Dave Aranda's done at Baylor.
Yeah.
I think he's a very quality coach. Bohannon can move. They can do some things in the pocket. And Oklahoma, just watching their games this year, they haven't looked overly dominant. This isn't the team you feel like, hey, I know one thing, they're scoring 45 points. We'll figure out how to stop them. They haven't been able to do that. Alex Grinch has had their defense playing better. But I'm going to take those 6.5 points. If you're going to give me that many,
yes.
I think Baylor has a great chance to pull the outright upset. It's in Waco. They're going to be juiced up. And I think they're going to be fired up and ready to go. Maybe OU pulls this thing out, but it's a tight one.
I think the Sooners win. I would take the points and Baylor at home. It's hard to pass that up.
That sounds like a pretty exciting football game.
Could be the game of the week.
When we look at Mississippi State, we don't know which team we're going to get necessarily from week to week. They are going on the road facing Auburn. Auburn getting 5.5 points in this one.
So, again, good Bo Nix, bad Bo Nix. And because of that, I never bet the Auburn game because I don't know which quarterback is showing up.
But that's why you get the in-game action.
Yeah, even that you don't know, right? Auburn could win this game by 21 points, and they could lose by 14. It could go either way. I would take Auburn because normally the trend is that you have bad Bo Nix and he rebounds and plays well. I think Auburn is the better team top to bottom. I'm taking the Tigers in my FanDuel.com picks.
Yep.
I trust Derek Mason's defense. That's really what I'm betting on here.
But how good do you feel about that pick? If you had to put all of your earthly possessions on it,
there's not a lot of confidence behind that one.
Flip a coin.
That's about a 5 or 6 drink game to really get you through it, to make you feel better about it. I'm going to go with Mississippi State. Mike Leach is my favorite mistake in the world. I love getting behind him. His teams are electric. Watching his explanation after they lost to Arkansas when they couldn't make a kick to save their life, I feel like they get this thing done. Okay. I feel like we probably see a little more bad Bo Nix today. I think he's saving it. He's saving it all up for the Iron Bowl at the end of the year to give you some good Bo Nix the final week of the season. I'm going to take Arkansas today, or take
State. Yeah, they can win the game. Yeah, absolutely.
Notre Dame favored by 5.5 at Virginia today.
It's a good game. I let losses weigh on me way too much.
Are you a coach?
The BYU Virginia game sticks in my head here, which is why I'm taking Notre Dame, even though they're home.
Notre Dame has all these single point spread games. They're against teams that really aren't ranked, but you're like, they're not bad. It's not a walkover. You've got the Virginia Techs, you've got North Carolinas and this thing, and they just find ways to win. Even USC, they pull away late. 5.5's a lot. I'm going to lay the points. I'm going to take the Irish. I think they barely cover this thing. This game looks like kind of an ugly, 31-24 to me, where you don't really feel good about it. But Notre Dame survive in advance. They get another win. And heck, they may be on their way to an 11-win season.
I feel like you're talking about Wake Forest as well. They're our next team up. NC State at Wake Forest. Wake Forest by 1.5.
So Wake Forest, tremendous offense. Does play
the clawfence. Yes.
Do a great job playing offensive football, scoring the football. You saw it last week against North Carolina. Ironically, all the people that I talked to in the ACC, they thought this was the week that Wake Forest would lose because NC State can actually play a little bit of defense. They can score the ball, maybe not quite to the degree of Wake, but they'll be able to get some stops.
Go ahead.
I got to go with NC State. Underdog rising up. Wake Forest has played well this year. Probably 2 consecutive losses for
Jill, their quarterback Leary, 15 touchdown passes to 1 interception over the last 5 games. Wake is facing one of the hottest quarterbacks in the country right now. I think there is a hangover effect there. Also, people forget NC State's a pretty good football team. Yeah. NC State wins outright.
Minnesota at Iowa. The Hawkeyes favored by 4.5 points. As the Iowan here, I'm not going to make you pick one way or the other because I don't know even how I feel about this.
Here's the thing. Minnesota was like my dark horse team to win the Big Ten West. And then I watched one of the worst offensive football games in the history of the sport last week. They come out, they turn it over. Illinois scores twice, and then they punt the rest of the game, and you can't find a way to manufacture enough points to win. Tanner Morgan's been playing all right. They're on like their 8th running back at Minnesota. I understand everything that's going on there. I think Iowa's too disciplined. I think they ultimately cover. I think they get this game, Jill. So you can be happy about this. I think they probably win by a touchdown.
My win is that he said the worst offensive performance that he's ever seen, and he wasn't talking about Iowa.
So the winner of this game stands alone in the West, right? Up top.
There's 4 teams at 4-2 right now.
There's a 4-way tie.
Purdue is there, but I think you might be right.
If
you can get some
winner,
separation
though,
today.
Separates themselves.
Yes.
Iowa's defense separates itself in this game. They force turnovers, right? They've won how many years consecutive against Minnesota?
I mean, we own Minnesota.
Yeah, but it's like 6 straight years that you won the Bronze Pig or whatever.
Listen,
Floyd of Rosedale.
Floyd of Rosedale.
Thank you.
Iowa is
The
invested
Bronze
in
Pig.
farmland in Minnesota. Farmfolio,
Yeah.
they have bought it all up. They own it now.
They're going in.
Iowa.
They're going corn.
I took Iowa.
Miami at Florida State. This game usually, historically, is a great one. Miami favored by 2.5 points. I don't think it's going to be one of those games today.
There was a time in history where this was a great game. When we were growing up, this was must-watch TV.
Yep.
Miami, Florida State. I honestly, what would you say the line was on this thing?
2.5 for Miami.
I mean, I almost could care less about it. Like, watching Miami, they were supposed to be good. Florida State looked tough against Notre Dame. They were supposed to be good.
I can't even tell you what channel they're on today.
I guess I'll lay the points and go with the Hurricanes. I feel a little more confident in them because I've watched them rise up. They just beat Pitt a couple weeks ago. But both of these teams, showed something early. And then we just dismissed Miami's beatdown from Alabama because it was Alabama. But I think that's a lot of what they are.
I'm partial because I went to college where Manny Diaz was the defensive coordinator. He was very cool to me. So I've always rooted for him. He was up against it to start this season and then won his way out of the hot seat, surprisingly. They're winning today against a bad Florida State team.
We have discussed this game, and this was the poll question winner for the biggest, the most likely upset of the weekend. Michigan is at Penn State, and the Wolverines only have 1.5 points in this one.
So this line's been moving. I mean, it started out Penn State, pick 'em, 1.5. I mean, it's swaying back and forth a little bit. I think that speaks, number one, it's in Happy Valley. That's big time. Sean Clifford looks healthy, played well against Ohio State, even better against Maryland. Penn State's designed to be able to stop Michigan. They have a good front. They have talented secondary. They should be able to slow down that Michigan running attack. Jim Harbaugh, I want to say this is his record in away games straight up is 14-11 in the Big Ten. That includes playing teams like Rutgers and Maryland and Indiana, games that you're winning. And so that leads me to believe he hasn't beaten anyone of consequence really on the road. I think that changes today. If you're going, it's only a point and a half. This screams a field goal game. I think Michigan squeaks it out. I feel very unconfident. It's like limited success rate, but I'm going to lean with Michigan ever so slightly.
So, Jill, you and I met in Gainesville, and then we went to Tuscaloosa.
Yep.
And within 7 days, I watched Iowa. Iowa and Maryland played, right?
Yes.
And how did Maryland fare in that game?
They did not do very well.
Okay. Penn State beat Maryland last week. Prior to that, they lost 3 straight games, right?
Yep.
Penn State's not very good.
Yep.
But I trust Michigan on the road more than I trust Penn State's offense. Penn State would be my vote for the most possible upset today, but I'm betting the Wolverines.
The game right here in Knoxville, Georgia at Tennessee. The line, hey, it moved under 20 for the Vols, so we're at 19.5 right now.
See, I wish you could give me like a 21 and maybe a hook on that, because then I'd feel more inclined.
I have the 20.5.
3 touchdowns.
Gotta get in early.
Seems about right to me. I think Tennessee's able to score. I think they're the first team to crack 20 on Georgia. I just feel like Georgia's able to run the football too much. They rack it up. It's inside of 3 scores. I'm gonna lay the points in that, but I think it's probably right there about that.
I think the Vols score 17 to 21, 24 points, which I think will surprise many against this Georgia defense. Georgia is legit. They are elite. I don't buy that Stetson Bennett is great in pressure-packed situations because we haven't seen him there, but this defense is. I took the points. I would love to see an upset here. I'm not betting that part, though. I do think the Vols cover at home. 20.5. You said 19?
So close. Yeah, 19.5. Yep.
So everyone's betting that way.
Yep.
Which is shocking that everyone buys the Vols right now.
And the last game, I think, is also shocking that this spread is actually bigger than the game that we have here today. Purdue at Ohio State. That's 20.5 for that game.
That is surprising.
When we've seen Purdue have such success against top teams?
2 top 5 wins. Ohio State, their last 2 games they've won against Penn State and Michigan State, or Penn State and Nebraska have been tight games. They've struggled to score in the red zone. To cover big numbers like this, you have to get touchdowns. Field goals aren't covering it. I'll believe it when I see it. I think Ohio State wins this game and controls it for the most part. 19.5, you said?
20.5 for this one.
Too much for me in that. I look at this probably 31-17, 31-21 game. I'm going to take the
O'Connell threw for like 700 yards last week or something. Like, nuts. Like, I don't know. To me, this is Vegas saying no one watches Purdue. Like, we'll put whatever spread we want and you'll take the home favorite. I am taking the points in this.
All right, guys. So, Bobby, here's your initiation. I know we've had some drinks before, but here on OutKick the Tailgate, because we are at a tailgate.
What is this?
Paxton is sharing. Sharing is caring. Why? Hey, hold on. Why do I have to get the biggest one? Thank you. Thank you.
Is this Buffalo Trace?
What do we got here?
Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
Oh. J-Mo, there we go.
Cheers, everybody. I will say, that's real. Also, my tolerance since starting the show has gone way up. Way up. People don't believe it.
You have 2 tolerances, Joe. You get your normal tolerance, and then you have your pre-noon tolerance, which I think is what you've really enhanced on the show.
It was non-existent before, so it's definitely enhanced now.
How many people have jobs where they're encouraged to drink before noon? Not too many, so you should be thankful.
That makes me want to predict the Vols win today.
Bobby, thanks for joining us. Chad, forget
we
you.
Love you.
He's out.
Done.
He's out.
It's done.
He's cut. Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Chad, Wally Pipp's real. When you go to a wedding, you choose a friend over the Vols. No good for you, sir. I hope they get the victory. You're going to be a sad clown today, knowing you weren't there.
Everybody, that has been OutKick the Tailgate. Enjoy your college football Saturday.
There's never been a more challenging time to be an investor. Your stock markets are overvalued by every measure with record low cap rates. Cryptocurrency can go from boom to bust overnight, and inflation is making everything hard to predict. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just sit back and watch your money grow? That's where Farmfolio comes in. Farmland ownership made easy. Farmland's an asset class that's often overlooked, but it's one that's consistently delivered higher returns than other investments with significantly less volatility. You can buy a farm lot from Farmfolio, and we'll manage every aspect of your farm property, from crop care, harvesting, and sales of your produce through our company-owned packing facilities and international sales offices. With Farmfolio, farmland ownership has never been easier. Simply sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labor. Farmfolio, you own, we farm, you